My sister didn't introduce me to her fiancé's billionaire father. She dragged me across that Charleston gala, like I was an apology, and heels laughed and said, "This is the quiet one." My mother smiled beside her. "We don't really brag about Maya," she added, like I was a dent in the family silver. I tightened my hand around a glass of water so hard my fingers went numb. Then Walter Crane stopped smiling. He stared at me, not past me. At me. "And in a room built to celebrate my sister," he whispered. "I've been looking for you for 14 months. My name is Maya Bennett. I was 32 that night, old enough to know better than to expect fairness from my own family, but apparently not old enough to stop hoping for it. I worked in forensic financial analysis, which sounds colder than it feels. Mostly, I followed money when it tried to hide. Strange payments, inflated bills, fake vendors, tiny leaks inside companies that turned into millions of dollars if nobody paid attention. I liked the quiet of it. Numbers did not flatter you. They did not pretend. They either matched or they didn't. My family never understood that. To them, success had always looked like my sister Vivian. 35, beautiful, polished, a corporate attorney with a smile that could survive bad lighting and worse people. My parents spoke her name like it came with a frame around it. At Thanksgiving, they mentioned her law firm before the turkey was carved. At Christmas, they slipped her trial wins into conversations with neighbors. With me, they said Maya works with data, then moved on before anyone could ask what that meant. The gala was at an old estate in Charleston, the kind of place with stone columns, white tablecloths, and chandeliers that made everyone tilt their chin up like they were richer than they were. The air smelled like perfume, polished wood, and champagne. A photographer moved through the room, catching laughter that sounded expensive. Vivienne looked perfect in ivory silk. Elliot, her fiancé, stood beside her like he had been born inside rooms like that, and my parents hovered near his family, bright-eyed, careful, hungry for approval. I wore a navy dress I had bought on sale and smoothed down 3 times before walking in. My mother glanced at it and said, "You look fine. Fine. Not beautiful. Not even nice." Then I checked the seating chart. My name wasn't at the family table. It had been added by hand to a small card near the back, beside a cousin I hadn't seen since middle school, and a chair no one ever sat in. My father found me by the bar before dinner. "Just don't get into the details of your work tonight," he said softly. "People don't really follow that stuff." I nodded because fighting him there would have made me the problem. Then Vivian spotted Walter Crane walking in, and her fingers closed around my elbow. Vivian did not ask if I wanted to meet Walter Crane. She steered me through the gala with her hand locked around my elbow, smiling at people as if we were sharing some sweet sisterly moment. Her grip told the truth. "Keep it simple," she murmured without looking at me. "Just say you do analysis. I know how to speak to people, Viv." Her smile stayed perfect. "Tonight is important. Please don't make it weird." There it was. The family rule polished down to 1 sentence. Vivian could be impressive. I could be manageable. We passed a table where my mother was telling 2 guests about Vivian's firm, her Georgetown years, her upcoming wedding, the honeymoon she and Elliot were considering. My father stood beside her, nodding like he had invested in all of it personally. One woman glanced at me. "And what does your other daughter do?" My mother's eyes flicked to my face for half a second. "Oh, Maya works with numbers," she said, light and quick. Very behind the scenes. Behind the scenes. Like I was not a person. Like I was a storage closet. Vivian tugged me forward before I could answer. Walter Crane stood near the terrace doors, silver-haired calm, surrounded by people who laughed half a second too late at everything he said. Elliot straightened when he saw him. My parents straightened too. It was almost funny watching grown adults become children around money. Walter Vivian said, bright as glass, "There's someone I should introduce." She pulled me beside her, not close enough to feel loved, just close enough to be displayed. "This is my sister Maya," she said. Then she laughed. "This is the quiet one." A few people smiled politely. My chest tightened, but I kept my face still. Before I could speak, my mother stepped in, holding her champagne flute near her pearls. "We don't really brag about her," she said. "Maya likes to keep to herself." My father gave a small chuckle. "She does things with bills and spreadsheets. Hard to explain." The room did not go silent. That was the worst part. The music kept playing. Glasses kept clinking. Someone behind me laughed at something unrelated. My fingers went cold around my water glass, and for 1 second, I felt 12 years old again, sitting at the end of the dinner table while everyone talked around me. But Walter Crane did not laugh. He looked at me, not past me, not through me, at me. "What did you say your last name was?" he asked. "Bennett," I said. His face changed. For a few seconds, nobody moved. Then Walter Crane said my name again, quieter this time. "Maya Bennett." Vivian's hand slipped off my arm. My mother smiled too hard. "Walter, have you two met before?" He did not answer her. His eyes stayed on me, sharp now, searching. "Did you work on a review involving healthcare payments about 3 years ago?" he asked. A pattern of small charges buried inside routine bills. My throat went dry. I had not heard anyone mention that case in years. "Yes," I said carefully, "but I was never officially assigned to it." Walter's jaw tightened, not in anger, but recognition. A man in a dark suit appeared beside him and leaned close. His assistant, I guessed. Walter nodded once, then looked back at me. "Would you speak with me privately for a moment?" Behind him, Vivian's face changed from confusion to alarm. "Maya," she said quickly, low enough that only I could hear. "What is this?" "I don't know," I said. And that was true. The assistant led us to a small sitting room off the main hall. The noise of the gala softened behind the door, turning into a dull hum. Inside, the room smelled like old books and lemon polish. My hands were still cold. Walter did not sit right away. "You filed a report," he said. "Payments routed through vendors that should not have existed. Bills rounded in patterns too consistent to be accidental. Contract charges inflated just enough to pass casual review." I stared at him. 3 years earlier, I had been working in a small compliance office in Charlotte with flickering lights and coffee that tasted burnt by 9 in the morning. The file had landed on my desk by mistake. I was supposed to log it and pass it along. But the numbers bothered me, so I stayed late. I compared payments, I marked bills, I followed tiny charges through company after company until the pattern opened like a trap door. By the time I finished, the loss was not small, it was millions. I sent the report through the proper oversight channel. Then I left that job months later. No one called. No one thanked me. No one in my family even asked why I kept coming home exhausted. "I thought nothing came of it," I whispered. Walter finally sat. "My team spent 14 months trying to find the person who wrote that analysis," he said. "One of our companies recovered millions because of it." The room blurred at the edges. Then he asked, "May I thank you publicly?" I looked toward the door. "Yes," I said. When we stepped back into the ballroom, it felt like the air had changed temperature. Vivian saw us first. She was standing near the cake table with Elliot's hand at her waist, laughing at something she clearly had not heard. The second she noticed Walter beside me, her laugh stopped, but her mouth stayed in the shape of it. My mother looked from Walter to me. My father looked at the floor. Walter moved to the center of the room without raising his voice. He did not need to. Men like him did not chase attention. Attention came when they stood still long enough. "Excuse me," he said. The conversations thinned. Champagne glasses lowered. The photographer turned. Vivian took one small step forward, already preparing her gracious bride smile. I could see it forming that polished look she wore whenever praise was coming her way. Walter turned slightly toward her and Elliot. "I'm grateful to be here tonight," he said. "This is an important evening for both families." Vivian's shoulders softened. Then Walter looked at me. "But before the night continues, I need to acknowledge someone." The room went quiet in a different way. Not polite quiet, hungry quiet. My mother's fingers tightened around her clutch. Walter continued calm and measured. 3 years ago, someone identified a pattern of payments and bills that had been hidden inside ordinary business operations. The amounts were small enough to be ignored one by one, but together they pointed to a loss in the millions. A murmur moved through the room. I felt every pair of eyes start looking around, searching for the important person. The partner, the executive, the investigator with a silver watch and a powerful handshake. Nobody looked at me yet. Walter's voice stayed even. That analysis helped open the door to a larger review. Money was recovered, damage was stopped, and my team spent 14 months trying to find the person who had done the work before anyone else saw it. Vivian's face lost color. Elliot's hand slowly dropped from her waist. Walter turned fully toward me. I found her tonight. My chest hurt. Not from fear, from the strange, almost unbearable weight of being seen after years of being summarized badly. Walter said, "Maya Bennett, I've been looking for you for 14 months. The silence that followed was so complete I could hear the ice shift in someone's glass. The photographer lowered his camera. My mother blinked fast as if the room had betrayed her. My father opened his mouth, then closed it. Vivian stared at me like I had changed shape in front of her. I wanted to disappear. That was the old instinct. Make it easier. Make it smaller. Smile. Shrug. Protect them from what they had just done. But I did not move. Walter lifted his glass slightly. People often misunderstand quiet work. They think if it is not announced, it is not important. But some of the most valuable work I have ever seen was done without an audience. His words landed cleanly. Not cruel. Worse for them. Accurate. My mother stepped forward, her smile trembling at the edges. "Well," she said too brightly, "we have always known Maya was very bright. Both our girls are remarkable in different ways." I turned my head slowly. "No, Mom." The room froze again. My mother's smile collapsed by a fraction. I did not raise my voice. I did not need to. "You don't get to say that tonight." Her lips parted. "Maya, this is not the time. That is what you always say when the truth is inconvenient." A soft sound moved through the guests. Someone inhaled. Someone else shifted back from the table. My father finally found his voice. "We didn't know it was that serious," he said. "You never explained it like that." I looked at him. I tried. His eyes flickered. "At dinner. In the car. After work. You called it number stuff. You told me not to confuse people." The words were simple. That made them worse. Vivian stepped in, her face tight. "This is my engagement party." "I know," I said. Her eyes shone with anger. "Then why are you doing this?" That almost made me laugh. Not because it was funny, but because it was so perfectly Vivian. Even now, with the truth standing in the middle of the room, she could only see herself being interrupted. "I'm not doing anything," I said. "I'm standing here while someone tells the truth about me. That feels strange because none of you have ever done it before." Elliot looked at her then. Not dramatically, not like a movie, just a small turn of his head. But I saw it. Vivian saw it too. For the first time that night, she looked afraid. Not of me, of being understood. Walter did not interfere. That made me respect him more. He had opened the door, but he did not walk through my family's damage and claim ownership of it. My mother whispered we were trying to make a good impression, and I was the cost I asked. She said nothing. My father swallowed hard. "Maya." I looked at him and waited. He had no sentence after my name. That had always been the problem. Walter set his glass down. "I apologize if my acknowledgement created discomfort," he said, though everyone could hear he was not apologizing for the truth. "But I will not apologize for recognizing excellent work." Then he turned back to me, formal now. "I would like to speak with you after tonight in a proper professional setting. No pressure, no assumptions, just a conversation you should have been offered a long time ago." For one sharp second, I saw my family the way the room saw them. Not cruel villains. Something smaller, more embarrassing. People who had mistaken polish for worth and silence for emptiness. I nodded to Walter. "I'll take the meeting." Vivian's jaw tightened. "So that's it." He says one nice thing and suddenly you're above us. "No," I said. "I'm not above you." I looked at my mother, then my father, then my sister. "I'm just not beneath you anymore." Nobody answered. There are silences that punish. This one did. The band started again a few seconds later, softly, awkwardly, as if music could cover what everyone had already heard. Guests looked down at their plates. Elliot touched Vivian's arm, but she pulled away, still staring at me. I walked back to the table where my name had been added by hand. The small card was still there, tucked near the edge like an afterthought. Maya Bennett. I picked it up and held it between my fingers. For years, that was where my family had put me. At the edge, near the back, close enough to count, if anyone asked, far enough not to matter. Then I looked across the ballroom. Walter Crane was still watching me, not with pity, but with respect. My mother's eyes were wet. My father looked older than he had 10 minutes before. And Vivian, beautiful, Vivian stood under all that expensive light with no idea what to do now that I was no longer willing to disappear. I slipped the place card into my purse, not as a souvenir, as evidence. The next morning, my mother called before I had finished my coffee. Her voice was soft in that careful way people use when they are trying to step over broken glass. "Sweetheart," she said, "your father and I were thinking. What Walter said last night was wonderful. I might mention it to a few friends from church." I watched steam rise from my mug. "You can be proud," I said, "but don't tell it like you were standing beside me all those years." Silence. Then very quietly, "That's fair." It was the first fair thing she had given me in a long time. My father did not call. He left a voicemail around noon. 11 seconds of breathing, one throat clear, and then his voice smaller than I had ever heard it. I should have asked more Maya. "I'm sorry. I saved it. Not to use against him, just because truth from my father had always been rare enough to keep." Vivian came to my apartment 3 days later. No makeup shield, no perfect smile, just a beige coat, red eyes, and a paper coffee cup she forgot to drink from. She stood in front of my corkboard staring at the lines, notes, payment trails, and bill patterns pinned across it. "This is what you do?" she asked. "Part of it." She nodded slowly. "I called it your little world." "You did." Her mouth trembled. It wasn't little. I just never tried to see it. I did not forgive her right there. Real forgiveness does not work like a light switch. But I let her sit down. A few weeks later, I met Walter's team in a glass conference room downtown. I did not accept a title. I agreed to consult independently with clear boundaries and the authority to follow the numbers wherever they led. For once, nobody asked me to make myself easier to understand. Months later, I drove past that Charleston estate and saw the chandeliers glowing through the windows. I thought about what they called me, the quiet one. They said it like emptiness, but they were wrong. Quiet is not weakness. Sometimes quiet is precision, waiting for its moment. If your own family has ever made you feel like a footnote, tell your story in the comments. And hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one.